Welcome everyone to Intuition Fridays. Here we are, a couple of minutes late, but better late than never. I've just heard from Penny that she's done a tour of the state before she came on to the call, delivering her microgreens and doing all these very important world work that is equally as important as coming and sharing incredible insights with all of you. So welcome, Penny. For those of you that don't know, you are here on live Intuition Fridays, coming to you most Fridays on the Beyond Mystic YouTube and Rumble channel. Let's have a peek over there. You can follow us on Beyond Mystic Rumble. And please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can find Penny on pennykelly.com. Here is her website where you can look at her classes, her store, ebooks, all kinds of a community of consciousness online. So check that out. If you aren't familiar with Penny's work, please go over there and look at that. And if you're not familiar with my work, I do 1 hour private recorded intuitive psychic tarot readings, and these can be booked through the link below, and you can receive a 10% discount using the coupon code. So there we go. We've started the engine.
All right.
I'm going to take the cards off here, Penny, and let you introduce our topic for this week, because it's super fascinating. And I've been really looking forward to hearing what you want to share about this. And I have some things to share too.
Okay. So our topic today is bloodlines. And I don't think we're going to finish it. So we'll be back on November 28th. I have to teach next weekend, so we won't be here next weekend, but the 28th we'll be back, and maybe even the week after that, because this is a big topic. So, I want to tell a story before we actually get into the bloodline thing that led to my interest in the bloodlines, and so back in, oh my gosh, it was in the early 2000s. I was communicating regularly, working with a group of elves here on my farm. And I told that whole story about the elves in the book, The Elves of Lily Hill Farm. But that story didn't stop with the book. I kept that, I still have that relationship. And so at that point in time, I was doing a lot of research into consciousness, wanting to figure out what were planes and dimensions. That was the goal. I was irritated by people who were talking about, well, I was, talking with my angels, or I was on this plane or that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I had not heard that kind of talk before. And I thought, okay, I'm going to check it out. And I started a project to research it. And the first year went almost nowhere. And I thought, okay, all right, let's not give up too soon. I didn't put a whole lot of attention into it. So for the second year, because every year in January, I set up a new course of study, new exploration. And the second year, there was nothing. And I thought, okay, maybe there's nothing here. Maybe those people don't know what they're talking about. And so I said, okay, 3 strikes and out. We'll try one more year. OMG. Things took off in that third year and just built to this huge crescendo of understanding, which I actually wrote about. The end of that research was this book, Consciousness and Energy, Volume 1. And so I'm gonna share a little bit about what happened. And I think, hang on a second. I want to read a little paragraph just to set it up. So in this paragraph, I had been experimenting in other dimensions. And I had decided, I think I can bring something from that dimension over here to prove that, you can bridge dimensions. And so that was the big goal. And I had been working on this orange ski cap that I wanted to bring because this guy that I met on the other side was wearing an orange ski cap. And I thought, I want that cap. I'm going to bring that and I'm going to show people. And so that was where my research was at. But I was still having my relationship with the elves. And one of the things that had happened in a conversation with the group, they're both male and female elves. And the main female elf is Mar. Oh, you
Sorry, I'm just moving you into the, there we go. Doing the thing. Yes.
That's okay. I'm not paying attention to that. And so I had been talking with the elves, and in one of our meetings, one of the female elves, the one that I dealt with the most, the two that I dealt with the most were Alvy and Merlina. And Merlina picked up this blue-gray rock, and I had been sharing with them what I was trying to do, and that I thought if we could bridge dimensions, that we could evolve into much greater human beings. That was what I was thinking. And so she picked up this blue-gray rock, and it had an unusual shape to it. And she said, here, find this in your dimension. And I was like, it's a rock. The whole place is full of rocks. And a lot of them are blue-gray. There's just no way. And so I said, thank you and appreciate it and what have you. And that was that. And then some months later, I got a call from one of my clients, and her name was Patricia, and she was a computer programmer for the state of Michigan. And she said, I need to make an appointment. I need to see you. Okay. So she comes from Lansing, and she shows up. We sit down in my office, and she said, she tells me this little story. So I'm going to read this paragraph. So 5 years earlier, she had read my book about the elves and nature spirits living here on the farm, and she came to see me because she could also see them on her property. So now we sat down at the table in my office, and as we began, she said, I have something for you. Out of her purse, she took a white card and several objects wrapped in tissue paper. She placed the card on the table. The card had a large round circle drawn on it, and inside the circle, she had drawn a cross. Then she began to remove the tissue paper from the other three objects, saying, I was out in my yard working in the flowers when your friend Alvy and a group of elves showed up, and they asked me to give you three things: a circle, a cross, and a stone. They pointed out several stones that I could choose to bring, but I couldn't decide, so I brought all three. She unwrapped the last object, saying, you have to choose the stone. And there was the blue-gray stone. Merlina had suggested I find it a few weeks earlier. So she said, pick one. I reached out and I picked up the blue-gray stone. My hair was practically standing on end, and I thought I was going to cry. So that started me on a journey. She said at one point, let me finish this little paragraph. She put the other two stones away and then took the blue-gray stone from me, placed it in the middle of the cross and the circle, and then slid the card with the circle, the cross, and the blue-gray stone on it toward me and said, I don't know why the elves wanted me to bring you this, but I said I would, so here it is. Maybe it means something to you. So I could hardly talk. I was blubbering. I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh. And that was the start of what is the meaning of a cross and a circle, and why that blue. We've made that bridge. There's the blue-gray stone, which I later, I think maybe a year or two later, I took it to Dr. Levengood, and he tested it in his lab. He said, this stone has some very unusual energies. And then he kept the stone in his, his cupboard of goodies that he had tested. And I never saw it again because he died and they cleaned out all his stuff. And somebody probably just thought, what's this stupid stone doing in this cupboard? And so I haven't ever seen it again. But that whole circle, cross, and stone is very, very, it's part of an ancient lineage of symbols indicating kingship and power, enlightenment, and freedom from death. And so I was like, okay, but I didn't find that out right away. I continued my research and I came across the books by Lawrence Gardner. I read them all.
Yeah.
And
I right there on my shelf.
Yeah. And I've read them again several times because the first time through I sort of gobbled and it was like, oh, just one thing after the next. Then I went back through again and I think what is valuable here is that, first of all, the circle with the cross in the middle of it, the circle is the symbol of the Ouroboros. And that's that snake that you see eating its tail. That is the symbol of eternal life. And the cross in the middle symbolizes the coming together of the right bloodlines. And the specific bloodlines indicated by that cross in the middle are symbols of the bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene and their daughter. They had a daughter named Sarah, and Sarah married a Templar. And the Templars had the whole purpose for the Templars in the what I'll call their prominence, etc., was to protect that bloodline. All the other stories about the gold and blah, 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 yeah, they were very, very intuitive. They had developed their consciousness. And so they were wise and they were attentive. They were paying attention. They didn't swallow all the narrative of their day. And so that whole thing, that cross in the middle symbolizes the ongoing bloodline, which at first they tracked very, very carefully. And then later they said, no, spread that out, spread that everywhere so that it can't be contained anymore. It can't be hidden. It's just going to affect whoever it affects. And so when I received that circle, cross, and the stone, it was an acknowledgement that somehow that I was part of that bloodline. And I'm not claiming anything, but that whole thing turns out to have been something that came down from the ancients way back in Sumeria. The women were in charge, and it was the matriarchy, and the all-seeing eye was not the symbol of something that it is today.
No.
The all-seeing eye back then was the symbol of those who had entered the blackness, the void, and the circle was the blackness, was the circle of life, and that little dot in the middle, or the eye in the middle, was the all-seeing eye that basically said, that we come from this place of total blackness with just a bunch of light in it. And that's what that meant. And now it has come to be, deep state, surveillance, people watching you, etc. So I think the first thing that I would point out is that the mark of Cain was the circle within a stone, or the circle that had a cross in the middle. That was the mark of Cain. And that was a symbol of the male half of the female matriarchal line producing this kingly line, or queenly line. And that was the original bloodline. And that's why Cain was so maligned. And the whole biblical story was an effort to get rid of that bloodline. And they've been trying to do that for forever. So,
Penny, I just want to bring your attention to look over on where the card is. You know this card, Ace
yes,
of Cups.
I do.
Look
Yep.
at the
There it
circle, the cross in the middle.
Yep.
And that is also the Holy Grail. This cup is the Holy Grail.
Right. The Grail is the womb. That's the cup.
And it has the W for womb, but also upside down is M for the Magdalene, the Mary Magdalene line. So, and there it is. It's the whole.
Oh, you're giving me goosebumps.
Yeah. I've been holding it up because I want just to point out there's a relevance. The tarot, we know it's ancient symbolism and that it is referring to these things. So exactly what you said, the chalice is the feminine and this circle cross is the masculine.
Yeah. And all of that had to go underground. And that's how the tarot deck evolved. It was a symbol of we won't forget. It was a symbol that mapped out the journey to enlightenment and the 4 different pathways that you could take. You could take the worldly path, you could take the path of heart, the path of action, or you could be an intellectual. So, but if you stayed at it, if you kept at it, you would join that bloodline. You end up transforming yourself. And that really, that whole bloodline concept has now spread throughout the world. And the deep state, they're, I think they're foolish if they think that they're going to stamp that out. It's just not going to happen. But they keep on pushing the corruption of the symbols, all those symbols. When we start with, if you just look at the whole Templar story and what they were about, the Romantic period kind of came about because they were trying to protect the feminine, the female line of those bloodlines, and the fact that there had been several children that were, and the female carries the bloodline very clearly. Males can, especially if they get with a female that is part of that bloodline, they can produce, somebody who's really amazing, a good leader, somebody who's a good spiritual person, wise in the ways of the world, all of that kind of thing. And so the whole thing with the bloodline is really a story that I think is for our time. And that whole, what I'm going to call story of the Templars, that they're evil, that they are bad. Yeah, they were infiltrated and they have been corrupted nowadays, but some of them still play a double role. And that they're holding the space for what I'm going to call the cleanup operation and for the truth to come forward again. And I think that that's a beautiful way of looking at, or I'm going to say cleaning up the terrible narrative that has evolved around the all-seeing eye. That it used to be the eye of God. And in fact, they didn't have any word for God back in the days of the Sumerians. They just had the word E-L-O-H, Elo, as in Elohim, for lots of Elo, multiple Elo. So Elohim means those who have become or recognize the God within. That's why they were called, later they were called the gods, but originally they were just called the Elohim. And there was another, I can't remember what the Essenes, that comes from a Greek word, and that also pointed to not only the God within, but the power of that God within to heal. And that's why the two snakes twirling up I don't know, the rod with the wings, that is the symbol of the enlightened consciousness that is no longer just, I think we've talked about this before. It's no longer, you're no longer limited to just what you can see and hear and know around you. And if there's been anything about my life that I would say has validated that, it's like everything. I am not limited to consciousness in just my local area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anybody who works in the field of doing tarot, dowsing, whatever, they are accessing that incredible intelligence out there that heals and heals truly, not just covers up things, heals. So I think, that's like a place for us to begin looking, asking questions. Hang on, I want to read one more little thing here. So,
and I want to comment just briefly, Penny, on the all-seeing eye, because some of you might be aware that it's the logo for my business, my platform, my website is called Eye of the World. In 2008,
yes.
I channeled the name, and I was shown the two eyes, the all-seeing eyes, which is the left eye and the right eye. And what I was shown is the two eyes being merged to be a unified eye. And so I commissioned the design, and here it is. This is on my website.
Ooh.
So this is my Eye of the World logo, and it's not the all-seeing eye, it is the inner knowing eye. The eye, right?
Yeah.
And
that's beautiful.
So, thank you. And this is, I've been working with this concept of the unification and the inner spiritual eye, not this eye that is trying to manipulate and dominate and control in the outer world, but like you say, the whole universe is within, and our universal eye is this pineal, which is the access to all the dimensional realms. So this is my website. A lot of people don't know that I have a whole, I have a whole website, and basically, there it is, Eye of the World Online Education and Spiritual Resources. So this is really significant for me, and I've had to go through a bit of the condemnation around that. A lot of people have seen that symbol and automatically assumed that I've been associated with deep state and the dark cult, and it couldn't be farther from the truth, because I'm here to actually reclaim these tools, these very sacred ancient symbols that are not meant to be like, it's like there's a wisdom that goes along with those symbols. Just like you said, the circle, the cross, these things were co-opted. I mean, if you wanted to manipulate humanity, wouldn't you take the most powerful symbols and manipulate, hijack them? You're not just going to choose any old thing. You're going to go for the things that have the most
meaning.
The most meaning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that, I'm so glad you said that, because that was part of my reason for bringing up the bloodlines. If we don't start to reclaim the narrative and get to the truth that existed before they started torquing everything, then we're lost. We don't have anything to hang on to. We need our traditions. We need our history, and it needs to be the true history, because history determines where we're going. And if it's a bunch of lies, we're going over the cliff, and we don't have anything to hang on to. So that, when you said reclaim, I was like, yes.
And
absolutely.
Yes. And when you're speaking about, where do we get this connection from? I have a very short, sweet story similar to the one you shared, which is about the elves. and the dimensions. I was
Okay.
in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. This must have been about 12 years ago now. I was camping there with friends who had children, and
Yeah.
we had sat around the fire, and we were all, open, esoteric kind of people. And so my friend had this deck of fairy elven oracle cards. And
Oh,
so we sat around the campfire and we all pulled a card from this oracle deck. And I pulled the card that said, "The elves are trying to speak with you. Pay attention to the little details." So that
oh,
was fine. I was like, okay, that's lovely. Thank you. I'll,
yeah.
my eyes open. So the next day I'm out walking with my friend's son, who was about 12 or 13 at the time. We were going on this long walk. He wanted to go explore, and I was the only one that was up for it.
Okay.
So we're walking along this road. Okay, now this is in the fall, and we're
Okay.
walking down this road, and he's up ahead looking at everything in the woods and kicking stones like a boy, and and I'm just sort of meandering along and observing everything, keeping my
Yep.
eyes open. And I look over into the side where the forest is, and I see this blue color. So we're talking about blue, right?
Blue
And I see
stone.
this blue.
Yeah.
I see this little
Oh,
blue thing, and I'm thinking to myself, what is that? That's a strange color to see in the forest. So I look at it, and my brain is registering, oh, it's a little piece of blue tarp that got left there or something.
yep.
And then I'm also thinking, oh, I don't know. Finally I'm thinking, oh, it's an Oregon grape leaf because they're kind of bluish tinge, right? But
Okay.
what's interesting is I start to sing bluebird egg, and I'm singing, just humming to myself, bluebird egg, bluebird egg, bluebird egg. I walk about, I don't know, maybe 100 feet, and right in front of me on the path is a blue robin's egg,
Wow.
complete whole blue robin's egg. The kid had already walked right past it, didn't even see it. This is
Oh
the
my.
fall. This is on a
Yeah.
road that
In the fall.
vehicles go up and down. How is there a blue robin's egg intact sitting right in front of me on the path? And I'm singing bluebird egg.
Oh my.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, LVs, thanks a lot. Like they were just
Yeah.
going snickering and going, "We got you, ASHALA. We're with you. We're on to you, and we're right here. And we're trying to tell you that's how easy it is to
Wow.
connect with us."
Yes, that's the truth. And that egg is, and any egg is a symbol of birthing, of something coming into being. So that would be the birthing of a greater awareness in you. So, and it
Yes,
doesn't
yes.
matter what somebody else just very
Found
nice.
a robin's egg and it's
Yeah,
the fall. Like this isn't the time yet. Well, maybe an
that's
egg fell
fine.
out of a nest in the spring, but it's not going to sit there for
No, no.
months in the middle of a road.
Right.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
that's amazing. Mm. And,
yeah,
every so often I think back to that whole experience where I'm talking with Marilena. I see, she hands me the stone, and yet, and she says, "Find this in your world." She takes it back, and I'm thinking, "Ain't no way." And then what? Weeks later, this, I think it was almost 2 months later, this client comes in with this circle, cross, and stone, saying, "Your elves asked me to bring this to you." I was like, how does that sort of thing happen? And it's like a telephone pole upside the head, that the world is not as we grew up thinking it is. And we have to open to that. Like your advice was, pay attention. Pay attention. We have to open and pay attention to a bigger range of things. Everything has meaning. Everything is energy. And I think I don't know, we probably don't have time. I want to talk about, how do you transform your bloodline, yourself, to become part of that bloodline, that once you have had that transformation, you carry that and it runs in families. And that is something that is not really understood. Unless you've worked in this field for a while, you might not know that grandmothers often have it. They pass it to daughters, they pass it to their daughters and then granddaughters and great-grand, all the way down the line. And even some of the young men will pick up those same gifts and carry that. They'll have a lot of that kind of consciousness. And I think we're needing to recognize that that consciousness has been spread all over the planet now, courtesy of the Templars, who said, there's no point in trying to protect this. Let's put it out there. It's kind of the same concept of people who have some sort of amazing thing they want a patent, and the government comes along and says, you can't tell anybody about that. And they sit on it, or the government confiscates it and it's gone. It's lost. We can't have it. We can't use it. And so a lot of scientists now are saying, heck, a patent costs like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. It's only good for 17 years. And then somebody else can come along at any point in that 17 years and say, I tweaked it. I added 2 molecules and now it's different. And they can claim that they're not copying your patent and they don't have to pay you. So now a lot of scientists are just putting it out there. Everybody gets it so that it can't be stopped. And I think the big lesson that we have to learn is we keep waiting for the wrong bloodline, which is the bloodline of the, what can I call them nicely? I don't have a nice word for the people that are in charge, that are trying to get total control. That bloodline is not good. If we don't reclaim our own birthright and our own symbols and our own bloodlines, then we're not going to be able to survive. And I was talking with somebody yesterday, and she said, this is red alert time. And I thought, yeah, it is. It started in June. It ends next August. This is red alert time. It's either now or never, kind of a do or die sort of energy that we are all facing. And it's like, okay, let's start by understanding that the narrative has been terribly corrupted. If Cain was part of the king, the line of men that were really very powerful, that were the consorts of the women who were the bloodline, who carried the bloodline blatantly, and that they were trying to stamp that out, that whole story is just a made-up story. It's a lie. And when if you analyze, this is something I want to do next time we get together. I know you have to go early, but the story of Cain, and if you take that story of Cain and Abel and you analyze that symbolically, it's a whole different message. It's like, OMG. So we're needing to understand the stories and the traditions that have been passed down are not true. They've been seriously reworked. We'll say it nicely, reworked. And I think Mauro Bellino and there's another guy, and then Paul. I forget what Paul's last name is now. I just know him personally. They have said, here's evidence. This has been translated wrongly. This is not correct.
Oh, Paul Wallace. You're thinking of Paul Wallace.
Yeah, Paul Wallace. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, he and I have talked, and it's been like how do we get this message out there that the whole story everybody is believing in is not true? And what happens when you believe in a story that's not true? Then you lose your power.
Oh,
then
yes.
you have nothing to lean on, nothing to back you up. And we need that right now.
It's like saying your essence is not true. Like
Yeah,
when all of the truths are denied, then our essence is denied and we don't
right,
believe in ourselves. But we know there's a
right.
suspicion. And this is what I find exciting, Penny. That's all of our audience are the ones that are going, yeah,
Yep,
once you get on the trail of the truth, it's so exciting because it's like finding your way back to yourself, to
I
your
know.
actual authentic self. And it's just
No,
such a trip. It's so fun and
it
exciting
is.
because we see the more that we turn the stones over and look
Yep,
through everything, uncovering all these truths, the more we
right.
realize the grandness of our being as humanity, the
Yeah,
greatness of who we are, and then we start to be able to reclaim those things. So I want to go to you just posed a question there a minute ago, and I feel like it could
okay.
be good to ask the cards about this because you asked, how do people who are maybe don't identify as being part of this bloodline, this
Yeah,
ancient royal or sacred bloodline, how do people feel a connection, feel a weave with that?
how do they get that?
How do they get that? I think
Yeah,
that's a good question. Can we ask the cards about that?
yeah, yeah, let's do that. That's really the whole tarot deck is a deck that lays out, it's called the hero's journey, but it
Yes.
lays out here's the path to enlightenment. And I'm going to say from personal experience, it's kind of a rough path. You have to be willing to confront everything that you were told and discern whether it was true or not. You have to be willing to stand on your own. You have to be willing to not lie, but not force your truth down the throat of everybody else. So it's a rough journey.
There's definitely really rough stations of initiation along the path. And there's also joyous,
Yeah,
awakenings as well. But when you're
yeah,
in the dark times, it
I
feels
know.
like we're going to come out of that. And it's definitely frightening. We all have to
Yeah,
face those demonic energies that we've sworn oaths to them. Our ancestors
I know.
were so compromised that they had to declare allegiance to these entities, and so
I
we're
know.
healing that. And even if you have royal bloodline connections, and
Yeah,
we've been so altered in the sense of
I know.
the strengths of those things were often sought after by the dark cult. So the
Right.
children that had those powers were stolen. They were
Yeah,
brainwashed. They were, and in modern times like
I know.
MK Ultra and so on. So it's a very rocky road to
Yeah,
work to recover. That, to me, it's the dignity and the
right.
honor
Yep.
and the integrity of our human divinity. We're divine beings, and we've
Yep.
been tricked into believing that we have evil at our core, and what we have is evil controllers that have brainwashed us into
That's right.
buying their program.
I know. We are not evil. I mean, that is just, it makes me laugh. I probably should cry, but it's nuts. So,
So
mm,
how do
it's a
we,
fly.
at all of the collective we, and when you were saying this, it really was beautiful, Penny. I sensed there's something about saying we all are, because we get into this, it's the elites that taught us to see, oh, this person has a little more of that royal bloodline than you, so you don't get to come into the gates of heaven. Only these ones that, it's pitting us against each other. It's setting up this competitive hierarchy, which
Right.
is the opposite of the divinity. To me, Christ consciousness is not about a hierarchy out there. It's about the inner hierarchy. It's about aligning all your
That's right.
dimensional selves so that you are in right
Yes,
relationship with universal law. So, it's like this outside hierarchy is a bunch of BS we've
I
been
know. It is.
to believe in. And
Yep.
so I believe we all are royal bloodline. We
Yeah.
all have connection to that divinity. Just to be
Right.
here, we have to have that woven in.
I
but we've
know.
also got a lot of dark, as I said, these oaths, these agreements, these compromises,
Mm.
and we have to untangle that, and we can
That's right.
access the royal part. So let's see what the cards say.
Okay.
So
Oh,
here's
yeah.
past, or we could read it where we are right now,
Okay.
then where we're going.
Oh,
Oh, there's the feminine, there's the mother's line, as you were talking
yeah.
about.
That's
And
right.
how are we getting there? Oh, right.
Mm. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow. And
Oh, wow, is right.
that
Uh,
just lays it out. So go ahead. I have some things to say, but you go first.
yeah, so what I'm getting is that it's an inside job for sure. And
Yeah.
it is us facing all of this is the illusion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's based on, it's funny because I heard the word luge. And it's based on
Yeah.
the dark pacts that we've made. And each of us, this stuff is going to come up. And it's
Yeah.
easy to go, oh, it's them. It's that evil out there. It's those, those
Yeah.
I can't even think of the word. The ones that take children and do these horrible things.
Oh,
It's like it's we can point out there and say it's all that out there. However,
mm,
we have the opportunity to see where that lives inside of us. And it's
yeah.
really frightening to think you could even have a little
I know.
drop of that in you. Like we're talking about bloodlines, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was the blood? To me, I'm hearing it's not about a pure bloodline, it's about purifying our blood. It's about purifying ourselves from the way that it's been tainted. All the bloodlines have been tainted.
Yeah. That one of the things to understand about blood is that once you have had an enlightenment experience or kundalini, or even a moment where you experience, like if you try meditating and you experience this moment of total silence, total peace, that transforms you. That changes your frequency set. And that doesn't go away. I mean, you have to go back there and do it again and again. But when you have any of those transformative moments, they keep inching you toward the unfolding of the whole flower. We are the flowers of life, and
Yes.
we just need to blossom. And that it's not. I mean, it was important, I think, in the day that they were trying to stamp out the family of Jesus and to say that he didn't have a family and et cetera, et cetera. And to make him into something that he was not, that made him like out there. He was something unreachable, something that we had to aspire to. And that was deliberate so that we would not understand that he was a human. We can do the same thing. That was the main thing that they wanted to make sure that nobody got, that he was a human and that there was this transformative experience that would change you, rewire you, change your entire energy set forever, forever. And that's, it's tragic. They did think that they could just stamp that out by killing the person, but it hasn't worked, and it's not going to work. And that effort to protect that early bloodline was probably useful in the beginning, and some of the I don't know, I can't remember which one it is. Some of the Lawrence Gardner books, he has extensive genealogies that show the descent of from Jesus, from Mary, from that whole familial thing. And so it's really now, if we have had it spread, or if they've allowed it to spread all over, which they have, then I was thinking, well, what's our excuse now? We don't have an excuse. That transformation that is right at our fingertips doesn't have to be awful, doesn't have to be rough. It will be different, but it doesn't have to be frightening, or it doesn't have to be life-threatening. It's just going to be different. So you see the world differently. That's
Yes.
it.
And look at this, Penny. You see that it looks like the chalice that she's holding, like the Grail.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great mystery, really. And I think
Yeah.
that it really is more about a dimensional frequency than it is about, obviously, the information can flow through the blood when we are,
Right.
I just keep hearing blood holds karma. So when we are cleared
Yeah.
karmically, that frequency of Christ consciousness comes in and resonates, and it isn't disrupted or
Right.
rejected out of the system because the blood has been, I don't want to say cleansed, but it's been healed
It's been
somehow,
energized. It's been
alchemized.
energized. Yeah, energized to an extraordinary degree. So that's what making love does, energizes the blood, believe it or not. So that whole thing, the cards are, the question we asked was, how can you get there? How can you get there? And the struggle, that's those, it kind of looks like a fight, but it's really just an individual struggle. You're fighting with yourself. I can't even begin to say how much struggling and fighting I did trying to go back to, my old normal. But once you stop that fighting and you just say, oh, I'm tired of that. I just want some peace of mind. And you get quiet inside. That quiet leads to seeing more, hearing more, feeling more, understanding more. And you end up on the throne. You're in power in your own life. And it's a very sensitive, aware kind of power without being cheesy, if you know what I mean. So, that the Queen of Cups, that's really where it's at. That is the Grail. You become the cup of life itself, your whole system. And then, you begin to look out at the world and you say, yeah, I could probably have any one of those if I really wanted it, but they lose their meaning. And that sets you apart. And the figure down in the front, his back is to us. You can only see like the back side of him is kind of dark. That really symbolizes turning your back on the rest of the world, looking at all the stuff that people are going after, running after, chasing after, thinking that this is, I don't know what, going to help, going to save, going to entertain maybe for a minute. It doesn't last. And so you do turn your back on the world a little bit, but you're not alone. The world expands instead of contracts. So it's really quite wonderful. So the bloodline is really, so the message that I wanted to leave everybody with today was develop your own bloodline. Make your own way in the world. Do it your way. That is really the birthright of every single individual. Is make a world and make that world beautiful, and let it shine. Let that light shine through you, and it'll shine throughout your entire world. And people intuitively respond to that. They just do, and that's one of the things, that my kids have said to me over and over again. Why do people not, give you a hard time? Or why do people respond to you the way they do before you even say anything? I think intuitively, we all just feel one another's energy. We know. We just know. And it's a gift.
Think about children and animals. Children and animals can read people's energy, and they know who to go to, who's safe, who's welcoming, whose energy is in a good frequency, right? They're very, very aware of that kind of thing.
Yep.
And similarly, I mean, this show is called Intuition Fridays. We're speaking about you become more sensitive, more intuitively open by, interestingly enough, the more, like, for example, I have one of the, I'm an RH negative. So if I went down the road of, my bloodline, which back in the beginning, I was pretty tempted by a lot of that stuff, 30 years ago when I was first learning about this. And that was the rumor, was that you were special. But the more you get into that special, I'm this elite bloodline, I'm this, I'm that, the more you lose your actual, real, natural, innocent frequency of Christ consciousness. Is so not about the ego. It's so not about having power. You don't need power. You are power.
That's
You don't need
right.
power outside of you. You don't need to prove that you're a bloodline and elite. In fact, the more you get into that garbage, I always say, big ego, small magic. Small ego, big magic. It's like the perfect equation. You get big magic with a small ego, where you let go of trying to prove I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a whatever, and you go into, I am a divine being that is choosing how to resonate. I'm doing a lot of healing of my bloodlines.
Right.
And I'm using everything I've been gifted with to do the very best at coming forward in this divinity to co-create with all the others that are just as divine as I am.
Yeah,
so
they are.
It's a courageous path, because we have to face all those things that we look outside and go, look what they're doing, and look how this person treated me, and look at how, these elites and all these horrible things that are being done. And we have to know somewhere in us lives a small aspect of that. And that's what we're meant to work on and heal and forgive and clear, so that we can all, you doing that, Penny, look at so many people, like you said, just being around you, hearing what you have to say, it's lifted them up.
I hope so. Let me read my conclusions. At the very end of the book, I had an aha or two. And so I just thought I would share that. Hang on a second. When Pat, that's the woman who brought me the circle, cross, and stone, and set it in front of me, when she came and set that in front of me, I was astounded. I was moved to tears at the sight of the blue-gray stone, and I wasn't sure why the elves had asked her to include a circle or a cross. Not knowing the significance of these two items, I let them slide into the background and eventually forgot about them. But while writing the last chapters of this book and looking for a reference for something else, I came across a piece of information that caused the hair on the back of my neck to stand up and chills to run down my spine. The information was a paragraph that said, "The mark of Cain is defined as being a cross within a circle. It was, in principle, a graphic representation of kingship. It could also be called queenship, which the Hebrews called the Malkut, Malkhut, which is that thing at the top of their tree of life. This kingship was a legacy of Tiamat, the dragon queen and great matriarch of the Grail bloodline. In accordance with the history of the imperial and royal court of the dragon, which still exists today and is trying to save us. And we're, people just don't know. The outer circle of the mark of Cain was a serpent dragon clutching its own tail, a symbol of the wholeness and wisdom of the Ouroboros. The cross, called the Rosy Crucis, from rosy, meaning red or red dew or waters, and crucis, cup or chalice, is a sign of enlightenment. And on this account, the Rosy Crucis was the original mark of the foundation of a kingly bloodline. So, the question that I've carried for a long time is, when the elves sent that circle, cross, and stone, were they saying, you have started a new bloodline?
a new bloodline
Yeah.
where we say, I'm coming back to divinity, because
Yeah.
is it possible that the people who had the earlier bloodline of divinity were people that had en masse
Yes.
reclaimed their human divinity, and therefore their frequency of their blood was holding that? We know it's so much disruption has happened since then. We know that so many things have been compromised and hijacked. So purity in that regard, I think, is
Yeah.
outdated. And I agree with you, Penny. It starts now. We
That's
start
right.
new frequency bloodlines now,
That's
going
right.
forward. And our kin, our family, our loved ones, our dearest friends, our colleagues, we create that frequency going forward.
Amen. So, okay. That I think is really what I hope people will take as we go forward into the next, what we got 2 weeks before we'll be back. But that 2 weeks it really is, where's your power? Develop your own bloodline, start your own family tradition of love, of common sense. The one of the things that is so nice about waking up all the way is that you begin to see the humor in so many things. It's like, oh, that, okay, that's not going to work, or oh, that's funny, and it becomes something that, instead of being a tragedy, it's like watching 2-year-olds, which are so fun, or 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds, learning how to put the world together. That's what we're doing. We're learning how to put the world together. And so we have a whole population. All of us are 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds. Is this how you say it? Is this how this works? Let me do it. I think I can do it. And you mess it up. And and then, somebody comes along and says, here, let me show you. And then you're like, oh, okay. And we gain mastery in a slow, steady, fun way. So the message is, let's play. Let's just play. Have fun with whatever is coming your way. We're in the middle of Mercury retrograde. Don't take it too seriously. Okay,
Yes,
just play with it.
definitely.
Yeah.
For those of you that are interested in looking into Penny's work, her writing, her ebooks, and particularly the book that she was just mentioning, I've got it up here on the slide that
Yeah.
is on her website. You can go into the ebooks section, and there it is, Consciousness and Energy Volume 1. That's what you were reading out of. Is that right, Penny?
That's right. You can get it on Amazon, but you can get it in PDF form on my website. So
Perfect. Beautiful.
yeah.
And while we're at it and looking at consciousness, let's look at this fellow for a moment, and reminding us
Oh, yeah.
to tune in with this extraordinary topic that he covered during the conference. So I believe this is a replay that's now available for everybody. So
Oh,
check out that link on Singularity with Cliff High.
yeah.
And while we're at it, I want to speak for a minute about, let me pull it up here. This is our survey. So it just takes 3 minutes of your time. See the link below. Your opinion matters. Our academy is listening. This is your opportunity to weigh in on what you would like us to bring onto the platform, to carry on with, to go further into, how you want us to continue to evolve and grow. And your feedback really matters. So jump on over and fill that out. Let's have a look at the schedule coming up here. Just got to find it. There we go. So here we are today, Intuition Fridays. You've got me tomorrow with the Psychic Tarot show at 4 p.m. Eastern. And as Penny and I mentioned, we're not going to be here next Friday, but we will be back the following week. So are we going to carry on from here, Penny? What's your...
Yeah, I have another piece of the that goes with bloodline thinking. So that'll be the topic next time. And that it's a combination of bloodline and healing. Conscious, what do you call it? The caduceus, that is the symbol of the American Medical Association. That really is, if you can release your consciousness, you can heal almost anything in yourself. I'm just going to say anything. And that actually, that's why we're not going to be here next week, because I'm teaching a class in getting well naturally. So if you want to learn how to heal without it costing an arm and a leg and all kinds of difficulties and side effects, then you might want to sign up for that class. So there's we need to get, I'm going to say, smart enough. We are smart enough. We need to trust that we can heal ourselves. We just need to know what to do. And some of that is the awakening of consciousness, because some problems are rooted right in the consciousness itself. That's sometimes called the spiritual base, the spiritual root of the problem. And yeah, that's something that we need to understand. How do you fix that? So
yes.
yeah.
And we can work on all of it at once. In fact,
Yeah.
I feel like everything benefits from a multidisciplinary approach where we're working on spiritual healing, we're working on physical, mental
All
health,
together.
emotion, all at the same time, because it's like cross training, your whole being benefits from having a bit of this and a bit of that. And I've noticed in all my years I used to really focus on one for a while, and then I'd really focus on the other. And then I finally got the memo. I was like, actually, it works better if you kind of do them in tandem, right?
Yes. Oh my. All at
Yeah.
once. People, they're often they're like, wow, that's a lot to think about. I'm like, yeah, but you have that amazing consciousness. So let yourself think about it. And they do.
Yes.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Penny. Well, it's been a delight as always. And thank you to all of you in the chat. It's been lovely to connect with you. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks where we'll be covering the next level of this fascinating topic. So
okay. Yeah, we just
got started almost.
I know. And I just went quickly through some things that are really deep, but we're going to deepen next time. So
We'll go back over it for sure. Blessings,
Yeah.
everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend. Bye for now.